We've had about a month since the Lakers season ended, a little bit over a month, and Minnesota ended up moving on. They get to the Western Conference Finals. Um, Kind of in the moment, everything happens so quick, and that's just how the league works. And 1 second you feel like, I'm sure every Laker fan out there thought for a second. I don't know how you felt going to the postseason. It's like, hey, it's going to be a really good series, and Lakers probably positioned well. They finished the season off 50 games. As we sit here a month later, how do you kind of view what the Lakers, how their season ended, and how do you view this next, let's say, 45, 60-day stretch for the Lakers?
Well, having covered the Wolves for their next two series after they beat the Lakers, and thinking of the elimination game that the Wolves had over the Lakers in Game 5 versus the game they were eliminated by the Thunder in Game 5. First round, Game 5, 27 points for Rudy Gobert.
Mm-hmm.
Third round conference finals, Game 5, 2 points, Rudy Gobert. To me, like that is still the glaring thing that I look back at of the Lakers roster going into the postseason. Like it wasn't equipped to make a run. Uh, if you were, if you had a coach on the other side that was smart enough, certainly Chris Finch, I have a lot of respect for, to exploit what the group that the Lakers had. Like it's it was very vulnerable. And I think we kind of all knew it was vulnerable because of the trade that was rescinded. We all reported on and discussed ad nauseum. However, because of the way the Lakers closed out the regular season, you're like, you know what? They could probably overcome it. They couldn't. I put that more on roster construction. I don't necessarily blame like the front office because Luka deal comes to your plate, you do it right, and then you figure out everything else on the back end. There wasn't a ton of time to figure stuff out on the back end. Yes, you could, in retrospect, say that well, kind of the book was already out on Mark Williams, and they probably shouldn't even pursued
Hmm.
that because the reputation around the league was that he had questionable medicals. So you had that basically 4-day window after the Luca trade to get another deal done to pursue a center. Probably shouldn't put your eggs in that basket. Okay, I can accept that, sure. But I don't think it was super realistic for them to have a franchise changing trade for the next decade. And then on the back end of that, in a 48-hour span, also be able to find a perfect match at the center position. It's just asking a lot. So that continues to be a major point of concern. Now, I do think they have assets in terms of expiring contracts, in terms of still someone like Dalton Connect, who they tried to attach in that deal. I think he still has value and their first round draft pick that they can trade in the future. They're they have the type of package they can put together to see what big men are out on the market, and it's not like a great pool that's out there.
Hmm.
I kind of think that their best bet may be to try to sign a guy with the mid-level exception that can get minutes, and probably look into re-signing Jackson as a backup. And if the guy that you get, like let's say someone you go after someone like Clint Capella, right, with the mid-level exception. If both those guys can get you 15 to 20 minutes a game, and then you're going to play some small ball with the other 10 minutes, and you can get away with whether Vando's still on the team at the five, or even some LeBron at the five, or Rui at the five, or even Dorian Finney-Smith at the five, like that may be the best way to go about it while maintaining those assets I just laid out as you head to February and you see what you could get then. It's not a super inspiring way to look at things, but I do think it's a probably a realistic and smart way to move forward. And then beyond that, I think watching these playoffs, something that's also rung in my head was JJ Redick's comments at the exit interview press conference that he had where he said we need to get in championship shape.
Mm.
And I think if you watch the Pacers play the Knicks, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns was in championship shape. And that can be the difference maker in a long series. And what we've seen so far from Luka Doncic, the images we've seen from Spain in his offseason looks like he's taken that to heart, and wants to turn a corner in that department. If that does occur, I think yeah, I think you should be encouraged as a Laker fan because we know Luka's as talented as anybody in this league, and if he doesn't have physical limitations being a part of his overall kind of package, then sure, like sign it up. Let's see the Lakers go for a run next year.
What do you? I don't know if you saw this, but I saw this from. There was a quote from Chris Finch, and then Brian Windhorst had something on his Hoop Collective podcast where they're basically saying you could have 13 teams trying to win in the West next year, and I think the point was that teams think there's an opportunity, or teams are trying to strike right now. How much do you think that hurts a team like the Lakers, that you have that many teams that feel like they're in the mix, they're not that far away, they are competitive? I mean, we could just look at, I mean, I think the way you explained how they could try to address some of their needs from a big perspective, you're also emphasizing it's not like there's this huge pull just waiting for you. Just when you look at the West and you look at where the Lakers are, how difficult is that going to be just for this upcoming year to really make noise?
Right. I mean, I was also struck by that comment by Finch, and I think one, you have to look, okay, who's he not including? It's Utah and New Orleans. So while it would suggest that there's not a lot of sellers, it would probably say those two teams are sellers. And I know there's center on Utah that Laker fans are aware that the Lakers could try to add to this mix of Walker Kessler, and so you still make calls there, right? And you make calls about Herb Jones and whoever else on New Orleans that you feel like could be that switchable wing defender that we know that can have success in the modern NBA. That's one part of it. I think the other part of it is that it will make the regular season pretty treacherous, and when you have a best player or second best player, however you want to view LeBron right now, at 41 years old in his 23rd season, that makes it that much harder to get to the finish line healthy in your best position come April. And LeBron was pretty damn healthy for the Lakers last season. I think he played 70 games, but the timing of, the injuries that he had, the groin injury he suffered against Boston, missing those 2 weeks, the team lost its momentum. They had to try to find it again. He ends up tweaking his hip slash groin against Houston at the end of the regular season, and then in the closeout game against the Wolves, he hurts his knee, and he wouldn't have been able to play the rest of the series anyway. Like, so all of that confluence of events was in the last 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever, of the regular season, the playoffs. Um, yes, some of it was bad luck, whatever, but some of it is like your body takes longer to recover at this stage of his career. And in order to get through 82 games, you can't just have Luca. He's going to need some more help. And so then the conversation, I think, shifts back to Austin Reaves naturally. Is he the guy to shoulder that load? He's answered the call at every single step thus far. Um, I believe in Austin Reaves in terms of his talent and his character, what he brings to the Lakers program, all that stuff. And I think he'll continue to get better. Is he going to get better enough to answer what they're going to need from him next year? Is he going to get better enough to warrant the type of deal that he's going to, command in the summer of 2026, which is $30 million plus a year? Those are the questions that you got to ask yourself, where it's like, it's not that they don't necessarily believe in Austin or they don't see a way that he could benefit them next year, but would be this be the time to sell? Because I think there are some durability issues with Austin Reaves as well. I mean, he played all 82 games season before, of course, but he missed some time this past year. So it's they're in a complicated spot. They are in a good spot, but they're in a complicated spot. But like, one of the 13 teams, of course, Finch is mentioning. You say Dallas, right? Well, Kyrie Irving's still like out, right?
Sure.
Like, and you can go on down the list. Yeah, Portland's one of the 13 teams, sure, but Portland still has a lot of seasoning to go. Like you start to like sift through it, and you're like, okay, OKC is still there. Then you go Denver. There's some major question marks there. Okay, Clippers, major question marks there. Okay, Houston, sure, but they flamed out in the first round. Golden State looked old. Like the Lakers still have an argument to be made that they walk in with relatively the same roster and they're a top 4 seed in the West again. That's a good spot to be in. But obviously, we know that they got to improve this team.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.